Hello, hello. This is Dr. Chaparro again. How are you? Thanks for joining. So this is part 2 of the flashcards workshop. The previous video was the part 1 of the flashcard workshop. So if you haven't watched that yet, go over and take a look so that you can get all the information that you need that we've covered in this flashcard workshop. So welcome again, and we're going to get started. Let me just share my screen. Just give me a second. All right. So like I said before, we had a flashcard workshop a couple of months ago, and now I'm recording it so that I could share it not only with the attendees, but also on my YouTube channel so that I could share all this information for those that are studying for their social work license exam. Okay, so today we're going to do medications, all right? And we're also going to look at some DSM-5 clinical disorders. Another thing about the workshops and the videos that I'm going to be uploading on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and also press like. A lot of the information is going to be additional information. We do have the classes and our study materials. However, I wanted to provide some extra and additional support for not only our students, but anyone out there studying. This is our contact information. I prefer text message. And here is my email. Also, if you have any topics that you would like for me to cover, I will definitely give it a thought and consider it. Please email me. That way I know what is it that maybe some of you would like to hear in the future. This is our Instagram. I post a lot of our events and our website. All right, so let's get started. So as you can see, this is my first flashcard here in this part 2 of the flashcard workshop videos. And we're going to, well, in the first video, I explained that when you have your flashcard, you can actually put a little identification of what area it is. So for example, this is medications. So you want to put medications on the top corner. So I'll give you a few seconds to write that in. And on this side of the flashcard, we're going to put the brand name for this medication. Okay, Zoloft. And over here, I wrote something that'll help you out so that when you're studying, the main thing is on the other side of this flashcard, where we're going to be asking for the generic name of this medication. So you can write the question to help you out. What is the generic name for? So you could put what is, I didn't write that here, but I just put generic name for. So what is a generic name for? And then you're going to ask yourself for Zoloft. So this is the answer. It's Sertraline. And it's an antidepressant and also an SSRI. So you can write these little notes there also. And on this side, you can even write here, what is the brand name for? So you can use both sides of this flashcard to help you study, because sometimes you might want to know the brand name instead of the generic name, right? So you can use, as you can see, so you could use this card vice versa. All right, moving along, the next area, which is still medications, is what is the generic name for? You could write again up here, Prozac, right? So Prozac is a brand name for this medication. And on the other side of the card, it's going to be Fluoxetine. Fluoxetine is the generic name. It's an antidepressant also and an SSRI. Once again, you could write here in the corner, what is the brand name for Fluoxetine? And it would be Prozac. All right. And like I mentioned in video 1, have a friend test you. You could test yourself. You could make 2 piles. I give a lot of tips on how to use flashcards and how to just the most efficient way of using a flashcard in the first video. All right, so moving along, we have Tofranit, right? This is a brand name. And what is the generic name for Tofranil, it is Imipramine. Some of these names are kind of hard to pronounce, right? So this is Imipramine, and this is a tricyclic, which is a type of antidepressant. All right, so this is the generic name, and the brand name is Tofranil. Okay, and in case you need some more time, you could put, you could pause this video, write out this flashcard. All right, so that's about it for the meds. I just gave you a few to give you an idea. If you want more, like I said, you could write to me and we could do more of these. I think it's just very interesting, and it's a little bit more of a fun way to study rather than just reading a screen or reviewing a workbook and highlighting. This gives you a little bit more, I guess you could say, activity while you study. All right, so let's look at some DSM-5s. Okay, so our first DSM-5 clinical disorder will be intellectual disability, developmental disorder. This is in our materials, but I wanted to review it anyway because it is important. So intellectual disability, it's interchangeably used with intellectual developmental disorder. So you might see it written as this, or you might see it written like that, but either way, you can use it interchangeably. Just so you know, if on the exam you see it written either way, it's the same thing. All right, so this is one side of your flashcard, right? And you might tell yourself, what is intellectual disability, or how do I diagnose it, right? So for that, you can write down all of this information. If you need time, you could pause it, but I'll take my time either way. It includes both intellectual and adaptive functioning deficits. In other words, you would need both, and it says right here, you would need intellectual, which is IQ, it's the cognitive capacity or ability. IQ, you would need an IQ test. You would also need to assess or identify if the client has adaptive functioning deficits. All right, so both of these need to be identified. How are they identified? You'd have to refer this to a psychologist to get an IQ. And you can actually assess for adaptive functioning. And I'm going to show you how actually in the part 3 of these videos. I'm going to have another last part, and I'm going to show you measurement tools. So the adaptive function is going to be in the part 3 of this workshop video series. All right, so we're going to specify whether it be mild, moderate, severe, profound. Now, the important thing is how do we diagnose the severity or identify the severity? It is based on adaptive functioning. In other words, how is the client functioning, not on their IQ? All right, so to go a little further, talking about adaptive functioning, these are skills needed to meet daily demands. All right, now you can go further and make just adaptive functioning in itself a separate flashcard. For example, I just wrote it here. You can make a flashcard for this. For example, what are the 3 areas included in adaptive functioning, right? That could be a flashcard. It is conceptual, right? So that could be one side, and this little part here could be the other side of a flashcard. It includes conceptual, which is learning, right? Cognition, learning, and academics. Also, it includes social, right? So these are the 3 areas of adaptive functioning deficits. Social, which is peer interactions and communication. And then we have practical, which is personal care. So these 3 would go under adaptive functioning, right? All right. I'm so used to saying any questions. All right, so let's move on to childhood-onset fluency disorder. In other words, this is stuttering, right? So a lot of people don't know that now this is actually called childhood-onset fluency disorder in the DSM-5. So just look out for that. The other side of this flashcard could say these words here. So I would assume you might have to take a few seconds to write this down. So if you need to pause it, it's fine, but I'll take my time so that you can write it. Disturbances in the normal fluency is a lot of words here, and time patterning of speech that is inappropriate for the individual's age and language skills. Okay. So here are some specifics, right? So for example, on the exam, you might say, all right, what is stuttering, right? Or childhood onset fluency disorder. And you might see some of these keywords, right? Disturbances in patterns of speech, or you might see their behavior type things, such as sound and syllable repetitions, broken words, that means pauses with a word, within a word, words produced with an excess of physical tension, maybe just like very stressed because they're so stressed about their fluency in speech, and monosyllabic whole word repetitions. So here's an example. If you've ever heard someone stuttering or you have a client stuttering, this is what monosyllabic whole word repetitions sound like. It's like I, like a repetition of monosyllabic is like one syllable words. I see him. Okay. More severe when there is pressure to communicate. So if they're in a more like anxiety provoking situation, they would have, there's more, you're going to see more of the stuttering come out. Here's some examples: giving a report at school, or like maybe speaking in front of the class, or having to hand in a report or interview for a job. So something that I always remind everyone is when you see these diagnoses, always look at your symptoms and your duration, right? And not the age of the client, because you could diagnose a client with this disorder at any age, right? So we don't want to look at the age in the exam questions, or when you diagnose them, because you might say, well, how does a 40-year-old have stuttering, right? But they can, as long as they meet these criteria. Okay. So they belong to every age, any age is included. All right, here again, see how I labeled my flashcard DSM-5, so you could do that. And actually you can go further and put like clinical, DSM-5 clinical disorders, because there's a difference between clinical and personality, that those are other different types of disorders. So you would want to probably separate that into like more of a specific card pile. So here are some factitious disorders. There's actually two types. And you can make even further, you can even make a flashcard just for this definition, right? You could put it on one side, you could put factitious disorder imposed on self. And then on the other side, you could write intentionally produce or faking physical or emotional symptoms for attention-seeking purposes, right? So you can do that, or you can do it like I did. You could just put there are two types of factitious disorders. What are they? And then you have to say one is factitious disorder imposed on self. So basically these clients are faking some type of emotional or physical symptoms, and it's only for the purpose of attention, right? Now, factitious disorder imposed on another, it was previously called Munchausen syndrome by proxy in the DSM-4. However, since it's just like a word that's pretty well known, then it's good to just have it on the side in case they use that word, or for you to just relate it to this diagnosis. So what is factitious imposed on another? The abuse of another, falsification of physical or psychological symptoms in another person, right? In other words, that you are purposely lying or trying to make this other person ill, whether it be physical or psychological illness, right? Usually as a child, in other words, someone that's more vulnerable than you. Sorry. And the main thing is you're doing it to seek attention. So as you can see, factitious disorder is all about seeking attention, whether it be on yourself, like you're faking an illness, the person, or the person's doing it on someone else, and it's usually a child. Okay. And we have dissociative amnesia. It's a type of dissociative disorder. All right. So maybe you want to write here like type of dissociative disorder. But the name of the diagnosis is dissociative amnesia. All right. And let's see what this is. Okay, inability to recall important autobiographical information. So important biographical, sorry, information is information about yourself, right? Like who am I, my name, like who is everybody, right? Usually it's due to trauma or stress, okay? And the symptoms cause clinically significantly distress or impairment in these areas, social, occupational, and other important areas of functioning. All right, so let's see. I think that's it because I'm gonna continue that part in our next, my last and final video for this flashcard drive workshop. So just really quick, dissociative amnesia, right? You wanna write this on one side, and on the other side, this is the definition. All right, and that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for listening. And like I said, feel free to reach out. We have classes and workshops. And also, if you feel like you want to hear a topic on something or some clarification on what I just provided in this video, feel free to reach out to me. My name is Dr. Chaparro, and have a great day, everybody.